Hello folks, and welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk to you a little bit more about piercing aftercare, more specifically why we suggest saline for piercing aftercare. Now, if you're like me, you've heard literally everything on the internet as far as taking care of your piercings. I wish I could say it's all normal suggestions like, oh, just use water, make your own salt water, but it's also really weird suggestions like apple cider vinegar, toothpaste, and yes, even cabbage. I wish I was kidding and that no one has ever put cabbage on their piercing for healing, but I'm not. That's a real aftercare suggestion that has happened. But most professional piercers, including the Association of Professional Piercers as an organization, recommend just saline wound wash for piercing aftercare. Now you might be asking yourself, why saline? Especially, why can't I just make salt water at home? So I figured I'd come on here and talk a little bit more about why that's the best thing for taking care of your piercing, and really the only thing that you need to be putting on your piercing. Now, when it comes to healing piercings, your body is really what's going to do the vast majority of the work. There's no special substance or ointment or spray that you're going to put on your piercing that's going to magically make it heal faster. If something like that existed, we would be using it for every popped pimple, hangnail, scrape, or cut that we got, and everyone would know about it. Unfortunately, that is just not a thing that exists. So our body is doing the work of healing our piercing. We just want to create the best environment for our body to be able to heal as easily and smoothly as possible. As part of the healing process, since piercings are a form of puncture wound, which is a deeper, longer wound channel, our bodies are going to produce some secretion, some crust and debris, sometimes that we see as like a little liquid secretion that comes out of our piercing, and sometimes that we see in its dried up form as those little crusties that are very satisfying to pick off of your piercings, which we all know we do. Even myself, I'm guilty of it too, although you really probably shouldn't. So we want to remove that little crust and debris because that is a waste product. It's a byproduct of how our wounds heal, but we don't want to leave that sitting on the surface of our piercings. If we let that stuff collect there and build up, it can cause irritation bumps, moisture issues, it can trap a lot of bacteria. It's just not very healthy and clean. But what we use to clean that away can make a difference to the healing process. While there's no product that we can use that's going to magically make it heal better, there are a lot of products that we can use that would make things heal worse or cause damage or irritation to the piercing. Remember earlier when I said people have used toothpaste and vinegar to clean their piercings? Yeah, that's not going to make anything heal better or faster, but the same goes for things that seem a little bit safer to use. So for example, when we talk about folks wanting to use things like alcohol or peroxide, both of those products are a little bit too harsh for wound care. Peroxide in particular is going to kill all of the bacteria in a healing wound. That means bad bacteria, but also good bacteria that's present in your piercing that's helping to heal your piercing and keep things safe. Peroxide has even been found to sometimes damage and destroy new healing tissue. So when you're putting peroxide on your piercing, you may actually be killing the healing skin that's forming as part of the normal healing process. Alcohol can also be extremely drying, and all of that dryness can cause the skin to get cracked, have low moisture, and that also makes it harder for our bodies to heal. Now, a lot of folks will say, well, what if I just make my own saline? Can't I just put some salt and water and use that to clean my piercing? And you could, but is it the best thing you could use to clean your piercing? If you're trying to make your own saline at home, it's really easy to accidentally make it too salty, and then it has a similar drying effect to alcohol, or not salty enough, and then it's not really any different than just using clean water, except for the fact that you've potentially introduced new bacteria to your piercing. And that's because most of the salt that we're gonna have access to in our homes to make saline is going to be food grade salt. And there's a certain level of acceptable bacteria that's present in food grade salt. It's present in all of our food, and it's totally fine for us to eat and consume. However, when we talk about wound care, particularly saline that's being used for IV infusions, irrigation of a wound or an injury, cleanup after surgery, or taking care of your piercing, there's no acceptable level of bacteria present in the salt or water used to create this saline. So when we're trying to make saline ourselves at home, it's really hard to get exactly right, and it's really easy to introduce bacteria that we don't want into our piercing. And let's be honest, our kitchens are not the cleanest place in the home, and that's probably where your salt is being stored. So saline really is the best and safest thing to use on our piercings. It's completely isotonic, which means the salinity of wound wash saline used for piercing aftercare is similar to the salinity that exists in our own body. And our bodies view that saline when we're putting it in contact with a wound and go, okay, yeah, this is totally fine. Like, I don't mind this. I'm made of this. This is okay. And so that saline gives us something that's very gentle and non-irritating to use to clean away that crust and debris and create a nice, clean environment for our body to then do the work of building new skin inside the channel of the piercing and fully healing our piercing. Now, back in the day, the piercing industry used to suggest using homemade sea salt solution because that's really all that we had accessible to us. And depending on where you're located or what country you live in, that may still be the best option for you. And if that's the case, that's the best that you've got. But these days, sterile wound wash saline is very readily accessible in little aerosol cans, which is really nice, so it's perfectly sterile. That's why we don't have to worry about that same bacteria content that we have in food grade salt. And it's relatively affordable. Wound wash saline back in like 2002, you were looking like 20, 25 bucks for a can. These days, you can get generic brand wound wash for like $3 to $7 for a can. If you're really savvy, I used to always get my saline, the Walgreens brand, on sale with like the Walgreens points. You can get it for super cheap. So with saline being as widespread, accessible, and affordable as it is now, it's kind of the best option for taking care of our piercings. You kind of can't go wrong when something is safe, easy to find, and cheap. If you're in a situation where you don't have any access to saline to use to clean your piercings, clean water is going to be your next best alternative. Again, remember, the stuff that we're putting on our piercings is not what's going to heal them. Our bodies are what's healing our piercings. We are just cleaning up after them, removing that crust and debris that is a waste product from the piercing, and creating an environment that's safer for our piercings to heal in. If you're interested in more information about wound care and piercings healing, I'm going to go ahead and link some in-depth dives I've done in my blog in the comments down below. I'm also going to link the Association of Professional Piercers Aftercare information, which has a lot of great resources, and one of my favorite articles from Brian Skelly, who has been a sitting board member of the APP for many, many years, with a really in-depth deep dive in the difference between the salt that's in saline spray and the salt that you're going to get over the counter. But I promise you, if you're thinking about getting a piercing or if you already have one and you're taking care of it, there is no need to fix what's not broken. Saline is truly the best aftercare that you can use. Also, by the way, I had to wear my NeilMed shirt for this. This video is in no way sponsored by NeilMed. I am a big proponent of getting saline wherever is the most affordable and accessible for you, whether that's Walgreens store brand, NeilMed, Simply Saline, whatever is going to be cheapest and easiest for you to get. But I am a really big fan of the NeilMed saline. They're one of the only companies doing saline specifically for the piercing industry, and they do a lot of really great charity work to help promote education and safety in the industry. So if you see the NeilMed stuff around, it's pretty great. All right, folks, thanks so much for hanging out, and I can't wait to chat with you again soon. Bye.